I'm diagnosed with schizoaffective mood disorder, which affects me with highly negative auditory hallucinations and acute depressive periods. My first sort of experiences with psychosis were when I was in year 9 at school, working on a geography project after school, and I remember the corridor erupting into noise, sort of like train brakes screeching, and I just didn't understand. I didn't really understand what was happening. I had nothing to really compare it to, and I remember feeling just kind of lost with it. I didn't understand what was happening. It kind of just got worse from there, and things just slowly went further and further downhill. Things became worse. Noises just became talking, and eventually talking to full sentences. It developed almost a voice of its own, but then would also sound like loved ones. Eventually this went on to affect my studies, and even though I managed to get to university, eventually it reached a point where it was too much, and I did drop out of university. I didn't tell my family this and carried on regardless, thinking I could somehow hide it still. And eventually I reached a period of my life where I blacked out. Though that was a troubling period, it was also a period where it started my recovery and allowed me to move beyond what I was going through before. My friends and family could finally see what I was going through. And through that, I was put into the early intervention service, and I met a caseworker who quite honestly started that road and started making me talk about my mental health and making me question those long-held beliefs I had that I could not talk about this. I think I never spoke about things earlier because I had a very negative experience trying to discuss it with a teacher. I remember trying to express how I felt and what was happening to me, and I remember being brushed off, sort of, don't say such things, why would you make this sort of thing up, it's not nice. And at a point where I wanted a validation for how I felt pushed aside, and I suppose I felt weakened by it. I was exposing weakness when I should be showing a strength. I kind of questioned myself why I couldn't be like my father or my brothers, these really strong male role models in my life who I do look up to. And I kind of questioned that in myself. Why wasn't I like them? At the time, there just wasn't the education there. In school, I don't remember anything being spoken about mental health. But that is a very different time. And nowadays, it's very positive to see that that discussion is being held. I've never deemed my mental health worth talking about, my own personal struggles worth tackling. I never felt I wanted to burden someone else with my own mental illness. It felt something almost greedy and shameful to do. It's something that was very difficult for me to tackle. It took a long time, and with great support from my family and friends, it's become something that becomes almost second nature. And through there, my recovery only bloomed. I've run Tough Mudder, something which I never thought I could ever do. I've managed to speak in front of crowds of people about my mental health, where previously I probably couldn't even speak to one person about it. And honestly, I've made some incredible friends along this road, and some people who I really treasure in my life. I think a stigma-free world would just be, it would be a place where everyone can just understand each other. Rather than being judgmental, they can take on what someone else's opinion and point of view and be able to talk it through with them, to be able to understand their experiences as well as their own.